would love you to consider these questions for me. Are you a good listener? Have you ever been on the receiving end of good listening skills? And how do you know? Please let me know in the comments. I'm so curious. Now, why is this question even important today, these days? It's because we have South Node in Libra, and we will have South Node in Libra and North Node in Aries up until January 2025. And the headline of that is, of that transit, collectively speaking, because that's for all of us happening, is that we are on the journey of integrating that axis. And we are coming, because South Node is the shadowier part of the axis, we are coming from a shadowier areas of Libra. We are really, maybe for the first time for some of us, maybe we're seasoned in our work with shadow in Libra. But either way, we will be tasked with that work, shadow work of Libra, to integrate the light aspects of Aries for the duration of the transit. So in this video, I want to give you my answer to the question about listening, those 3 questions. So now, I'm not going to brag, this is not a brag, but to answer the first question, if I'm a good listener, I am. In fact, I'm an exquisitely good listener. Now, I know this. I know now, even looking at my chart, my human design chart, which actually has that archetype and speaks of it much more clearly and specifically than maybe astrology does, at least to my kind of comparative knowledge of it. But so that I have that apparently in my chart, but more importantly, the way I know it is I've been told over and over and over again since I can remember, since I could have serious conversations with friends, like earlier in teens, if not even earlier, people would tell me. And then there would be a queue, not literally, but in some sense, yes, of people wanting to speak to me because no one listens to them like I do. So that is truly one of my gifts, and gifts to you, to other people, and my skill, my talent, right? So I can speak from that perspective. But even if you know that you are not a good listener, or you don't think you are a good listener, you will know what it's like to be on the receiving end of bad listening. And probably good listening, but bad listening, sometimes it's easier to define something by defining what it's not, right? So you will know, you will also have these answers, and you will, I suspect, I imagine, resonate with what I'm going to share. So I'm basing my experience on my own good listening skills, also on the receiving end of good listening, which is my husband, who has the very same gate, the very same setup in human design terms, which, like I say, specifically calls that the listener gate. And but also I have experience of bad listening, which is far more common. And if you remember, I mentioned we're in the South Node of Libra, which is essentially we are focusing on, not that we are focusing, it's like it's coming up. It's like we are unable to not look at it anymore, all the shadowier aspects of Libra archetype. So let me start there by what's bad listening, and like I say, I'm sure you all can relate to this. When someone, so you're speaking, you're sharing something quite vulnerable, or even maybe not something important. Whenever we want to be listened, I think we always want to be listened and feel like we're listened. But there are some subjects that it's particularly important, and we are particularly upset when we don't receive good listening. So think of those moments and think of bad listening experiences, and you can see the person like, just the eyes are glazed a little bit. They're really, it's like there's a back end computer going, like they're thinking, like, and what they're thinking most often, and I'm sure, like I say, you'll agree with me, is like, how am I gonna respond to this? What am I gonna say? How am I gonna help them? So the motives can be on the surface, and legitimately on that level of surface, to be positive and kind and helpful and good, so to speak. But the motive underneath all that is fear. Is fear of being seen as a bad listener, or as a bad friend, or as a bad helper, or someone who doesn't understand. So it's coming from that fear. So the anxiety is like, what am I going to say? Am I going to say the right thing? Am I going to, right? So it's legitimate. You can understand how it's legitimate, the fear as well, but also it's coming from the desire to help, to be useful, to do good by the other person. And sometimes it's not even that nice, but doesn't matter. The point is still, in mechanics, it's that, right? We receive it as something that is really not about us and what we are saying, but it's about that person, and it kind of fills the room, it fills the space between us, and it's just, you know, I remember many times I would literally like trail off and kind of wrap up, and sometimes I would even move to another topic and it wouldn't be noticed because I can see that they were just not able to, weren't able to receive me. They were just too filling the space with themselves and their anxiety. Now, there will be another video that I will link below, and if it's not at the time you're watching this, it's maybe because it's coming after this, so just stay tuned, where I'll be talking about why it is so hard to be in our 7th house and Libra, because Libra and 7th house are correspondences, meaning in the natural zodiac, Libra is in the 7th house, and that's when you speak generically like one does on the YouTube channel, as opposed to with you as my client, which if you're interested in being, you can also fill in the new form, which is in my About section. Link there, you will see, and book me. But otherwise, when I speak generically, I speak of Libra, but really that's 7th house, as well as being Libra. And so yeah, I'll have a separate video where I'll speak of why it's so hard, why this is so hard, and it really is. And like I say, it will become so obvious to all of us during this period of time while South Node is in Libra. Now, I want to talk about the good listening, right? So that's, we know what bad listening looks like, and it's coming from a fear, right? And like I say, in a different video, I'll elaborate on the specifics of difficulties of Libra, but what makes a good listening is the light qualities of Aries. So it requires confidence. It requires confidence that you're enough. Now, Aries in its light, so Aries also has shadow, but we are bringing light of Aries to integrate with Libra in order to diffuse the shadow of Libra and be left with the light of Libra, which is, as I said at the beginning, listening and good listening is a quality of Libra. In fact, Libra is an archetype of diplomacy for which you require good listening. And even though that listening has an agenda, which is in personal relationships, when it's felt, it feels icky, it's bad vibe. But in politics, it's a given, it's a rule of the game, so people don't mind, because both sides want something out of something, and they could be even manipulated, and it's expected, and it's a part of the game. It's the art of diplomacy, it's art of conversation in political sort of circles. I'm not part of them, I don't know from like direct first experience. Actually, a little bit I do, but anyway. My point there being is that sense of someone's agenda, in addition to their good listening, and a good listening is essential because otherwise they wouldn't make a good deal, politically speaking, or even business-wise, right? So you see how actually Libra is designed to be a great listener. But in personal relationships, which is really what I'm ultimately always speaking about when I speak here on about relationships, and unless I specify that I'm not, assume that I'm talking about personal relationships, they're intimate, they're like, you know, less formal, right? We have no rules as such, at least not many written, and too fluid maybe, and too subjective, and just not clear, basically. They're not clear, and they're not established, and they're not really that effective. Even if there are some rules that are established, I don't think they're that effective, which, like I say, I'll elaborate more in another video about the shadow, particularly of that Libra 7th house archetype. So good listening is essentially being confident that you're enough, like I say. And Aries that's a light of Aries, like a light expression, like evolved Aries, mature Aries, because Aries is truly like enough. It's like, it's not interested in, it's so interested in itself only because it's the first. It's like, oh, look at me, I'm born. Oh, what is this? So it's just fascinated by itself, totally and completely. In that sense, it has this innate sense of enoughness, because it really just that there is nothing else. So it is enough because it's the only one, the first one. Of course it's enough. Like there's no comparison, right? To make you feel like you're not enough. So that's why the light to healthy, evolved Aries is that sense of enoughness, from which comes the confidence. But by the time we get to Libra, which is 7 iteration of identity later, we have been molded and broken and done all kinds of things, good and bad, right? And we arrive there and we are not like that anymore. And we are more and we are better, we are more complex, because that's again the truth of human beings. But with that complexity comes difficulty in maneuvering it, and so that's, like I say, I'll touch on that in this other separate video. But here for now with Aries piece is that the confidence that you are enough. And it's essential, because when you feel like that you're confident, or rather that you're enough, and therefore there's the innate confidence in you, you're stable, you are present, and you have no need and desire to compensate, to do something that you're not even considering, like, oh, am I going to say the right thing? What do they want from me? You will wait for them to, because you feel confident, you assume everyone else is. So you assume the person, once they finish saying, or as they speak about whatever they're speaking and sharing with you, they will express their desire, because they're confident, they know what they want. And that's again Aries, right? They're listening, and they're speaking, and they will say, I just need you to listen to me. I don't need anything else from you. Yeah, because you are confident, and Aries is the archetype of confidence, self-confidence. You're cool, you get that. You're not feeling threatened by someone not needing anything from you. In fact, you're relieved. Well, you're not even, it's like, yeah, of course, because you're the same as in Aries archetype is, right? So from that place, you are essentially allowing the other person to just be themselves, which is again Aries, in their share, which is them experiencing themselves. Because ultimately what is listening is, why is Libra Aries archetype, right? And why is Libra? Because you need the other, but it's to experience yourself. So Aries, right? To experience Aries, yourself, Aries, with another, Libra. That's the beauty of relationships, of conversations, but conversations that are full of listening chunks, right? As opposed to interruptions. I mean, there is a time and place for those, when they're lighthearted, when they're, I don't know, even not so lighthearted, but if that's again an understanding and agreement, and that, I'm not going to go into the mechanics of that, astrologically speaking, but ultimately the piece I'm addressing here is this, the Libra archetype, Libra Aries archetype axis, where good listening means allowing the other person to experience themselves, Aries, with you, Libra, right? And that's all. So it's their experience. That's what's so important. That's why we want to be listened. We just want to, we want to hear ourselves, and we want to witness. And then at the end, we may want some feedback, and that needs to be expressed. So as a person who is being listened, adopt the confidence that, and knowing what you want beforehand, or as you're speaking, or at the end, it doesn't matter, but at least you need to make sure that you're clear to the other person about what it is that you want from them, in order to ensure that you get the kind of feedback that you want. So you can, I'd have conversations with my husband mostly. This is because, yeah, we live together, right? I would tell him exactly, like, not like what to tell me, but like, so what I would tell him what I want. So I would say, I need you to just tell me that find something in what I'm saying. So it's always honest and true from him, but I just need a positive take on it. I need to be encouraged. And then he finds that, or the vice versa. And more often than not, I tell him, just tell me your truth. Like, I just want that feedback that's going to shatter me, or not, like, kind of recalibrate me, because it's going to be like maybe uncomfortable to hear, or someone else's truth, and or I will criticize me, tell me what's wrong, like tell me what I'm doing wrong. And so I tell him what I need from him, and that kind of exchange, even if if he tells me what I need and I don't like it, it doesn't guarantee ease and like loveliness. I'm still struggling maybe with that, but I ask for it, so I know I'm ready for it. By asking for it, I'm ready for it automatically, but I know even before then that I'm ready for it, and I'm processing it. And then I sometimes tell him, okay, this was not easy to hear, thank you so much, like, and I just need to go on my own, like go, take time out, as it were, and just process it on my own. And that's fine. And it just works like a charm. But like I say, it's easy maybe for us because like I said, we really have that since we met. Like the moment we met, it was incredible. Like he'd speak for however long, and he told me, one of the first things he told me is that I'm such a good listener, and I told him as well, because I rarely encountered it like he did, I presume. But if you don't have this, it doesn't matter, right? If you know that you're not a good listener, now I've shared all this, maybe you have recognized yourself somewhere there. Now you know how. So it's like, it's being clear about how you want to be listened. So telling them up front. So it's like saying, I have something to share with you. So this is clear communication. This is Libra. Libra is air, and clarity is also can be Aries, meaning that it's fire can purify, right? Fire is Aries. So clear communication up front. So you set the scene. So you are in a way orchestrating, and that's what Libra does, as in like it creates the dynamic. It's because it's concerned with the other. It's like very much aware of the other, and it's in that space with the other. It has the whereabout, is that the expression? It has the knack for arranging and setting up a scene. So you do that, you set up a scene, you explain what you're gonna do, that you're gonna share something, and you need them to just listen. Can they? Ask them permission. So it's like being considerate of them as well. And then once they grant you the permission, once they said okay, make sure also that you have the right space. So like, how many times have we started conversations that are important to us, they bubble up in a moment, but actually they're not relevant, meaning, sorry, they're relevant, but we chose the bad time, like while we're driving, or, like, so be mindful of that. But ultimately, you want to be Aries-like, in the sense of like being clear, being upfront, being honest, telling them what you need, knowing what you want from them, what you need from them, communicating that clearly, and like Libra, like gracefully, like calmly. You're not inciting argument. You're not assuming they're going to do a bad job. You believe them. You believe in their goodness, Libra. You believe in their grace, their own grace, by giving it to them first, right? And that's it. So let me know below, where do you stand on this? Are you a good listener? Have you received good listening ever? And how do you know? See you next week.